Tēnā koutou katoa, no mai haere mai ki tēnei hui o te kaunihere o ngā roto o Rotorua. Good morning everybody and welcome to this meeting of the Rotorua Lakes Council on this day, the 23rd of July. Just a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed, so if you could please make sure your phones are on silent, and we will take a morning break by 11, and if all things go well we should conclude the meeting by 1 p.m. Before we get underway though, I'd like to invite Councillor O'Brien to please open up our meeting with a karakia.
Thank you, Worship. Morena. Tūtawa mai I runga, tūtawa mai I rapo. Tūtawa mai I roto, tūtawa mai I waho. Kia te ai, te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, haumie, huie, tāki.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? Nope. Any apologies? We do have Councillor Waru and Councillor Wang who are joining online with us today. Kia ora. Sorry, you have an apology, Councillor Maxwell?
Commitment at 1:30 if we're still meeting by then. So, aroha mai.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll endeavour to finish before, but we'll see how we go. And also welcome to Councillor Kiriopa, who's joining us by Zoom today as well. Any urgent items or minor items not on the agenda? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of quick ones. Firstly, you will recall in June I raised the issue about the traffic safety problem in Isles Road, which related to an accident that caused some pretty serious damage and upset, traumatically, I should say, traumatised a family who live on the corner. And the CE said, please send me that information, Councillor Patterson, which I did, and they have contacted me saying we still haven't heard anything from Council. Any update on that?
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Can I undertake to get back to you with an update by the end of today with an email? So thank you for sending that information through to me.
No problem, thank you. And the second one is based on a meeting that I had last year with the residents of Middleton Road regarding a school project that is being undertaken. It's a kaupapa school. They are very concerned that they were told one thing, that the road is not being upgraded, that the road will not be used as the major access way to the school, whereas now they've been told that it is. And yet, as far as they've seen, they're concerned that the road has not been widened, there's no traffic lights, there's no footpaths, there's no signage, there's nothing. The road has stayed the same. So I'm just concerned that there's some breakdown in communication between the consenting authority, because that's all changed again from that meeting the last time. There are different people involved. So I was just wondering if we could look into that and get back to the residents, please. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get an update to the residents. Okay, so we will carry on. We'll just confirm our minutes of the previous meetings and then we'll go into the public forum. So we have the council meeting held on the 25th of June, the 27th of June, the 30th of June and also the 2nd of July. I'll take them all together. Is there a mover and a seconder?
Madam Chair, there's a couple of issues on a couple of those minutes. I'd prefer if we could take those individually, please.
Yep. Would you like to... Oh, okay. So we'll... Do you just want to raise them regarding the... Yeah.
I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
So looking at page 16 of the agenda, this relates to the meeting of the 27th of June. It records that apologies from Councillor O'Brien for lateness be accepted. As I recall, Councillor O'Brien didn't actually turn up at all for that meeting pertaining to the Tarawera, the changes to the Tarawera scheme funding?
Yes, we managed to get through that meeting quite promptly, and I do appreciate that Councillor Conan O'Brien was with a minister at the time, which he had let me know. The apology for lateness is fine. It was still an apology. Thank you for checking. You have another one?
Yes, I do. Page 25 of the agenda. It records that the Chief Executive, that I asked for an explanation in regard to a response I'd received from staff about costs for mowing a section in Nongataha. It records here that the Chief Executive acknowledged that there was a minor error in the response provided to Councillor Lee. The elected members were told that the mowing costs for one section were over $8,000, and the updated information we received on that occasion said that the mowing costs were only $5,000, which is like a 40% difference or thereabouts. I wouldn't exactly call that a minor error.
So you had the opportunity and you did raise it at that meeting. The minutes are merely recording what the decision was, and for that also what the comment of the Chief Executive was, which is accurate. You have another one?
No, that is all.
Thank you. So I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? That's carried. Thank you. So we now move to our public forum. This is the last public forum that we will be having before we go into the election period where we do not hold public forums. So it's my pleasure to invite Julie King up to the presenters table to speak to us regarding the Village of Hope, a community-led initiative to support Rotorua's homeless through transitional shelter, food support, wraparound care and employment pathways. Julie, you have 5 minutes with us. I'll just signal to you when that's done. And yeah, over to you. Thank you very much for being here.
Good morning. My name is Julie King. I am here on behalf of Love Soup Rotorua and on your initiative, the Village of Hope. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. For over 12 years, we have been serving our community by rescuing food and feeding thousands of people in need. But over the past few years, and particularly in the past few months, we've seen a rise in rough sleeping, vehicle living, and chronic homelessness in our city. There are people who are not just falling through the cracks, they've been forgotten. In recent weeks, we've taken action by piloting a small project with 5 individuals, some who were sleeping rough. We've provided them with safe sleeping spaces, kai, transport to appointments, and importantly, dignity. In just 12 days, we've seen progress, better sleep, willingness to engage, and even volunteering to help others. But this is not sustainable without a dedicated homeless shelter, drug rehabilitation, support, and clear pathways for long-term advocacy. We're not asking for miracles, we're asking for meaningful collaboration. Rotorua needs a central, well-managed shelter where rough sleepers can rest, reset, and be supported. Access to drug, alcohol, rehabilitation services tailored to street-based addiction, not just clinical, but community-rooted. On the ground advocacy, people who understand the system and can walk alongside our homeless whānau to appointments, housing and healing. Many of our rough sleepers are disconnected from services, from whānau, from hope, but they're not unreachable. We've proven that with consistency and compassion, lives can change. And I say this not just as a provider, but as someone with lived experience. Some of our team, myself included, have walked this road that gives us insight textbooks cannot offer. We've got to know some of our streeties and some situations where they have lost children to suicide and partners, which can make them completely lost. and feel isolated, have very low self-esteems due to stigma and social judgments, loss of identity and purpose, isolation, ongoing trauma, barriers to dignity, keeping clean, dry, safe, warm, giving into drug peddlers that help them escape on their next fix. The longer they are out there, the worse it gets. We're exploring options. These are just options about adopting a streetie. Obviously, it will take a lot of work with screening processes. Not everyone will be an ideal host, obviously, but there are ways that we can work together with organisations to bring those that are willing to receive the help, some help, to get away from drug dealers, to have somebody care for them. These are just options we're exploring, and we're in very early days. We respect all the organisations doing the mahi in Rotorua, and we're not here to compete. We are here to collaborate, to fill the gaps, and to advocate for a shared responsibility in caring for our most vulnerable. Let's be bold, let's build solutions together that work for Rotorua for the future, and for the people sleeping on our streets tonight. Ngā mihi nui, thank you for your time, your ears, and hopefully your hearts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie. We
you.
appreciate your contribution and your time this morning. Thank you.
Don't we have time for questions, Madam Chair?
We don't usually take questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much to our Love Soup organisation here locally. We acknowledge your 12 years and also to the many volunteers that assist you as well. Thank you. So there are no presentations, so we'll move straight to our staff reports. We have a few reports to get through, so we'll start with the adoption of Class 1V Gambling and TAB Venue Policy, and then we'll go to the adoption of Water Services Delivery Plan, Rotorua District Licensing Committee Resourcing and Recruitment, and then our Rotorua Partnerships and Rotorua Vision Committee updates before we may take a break before getting into our water management solutions. So I'd like to now invite Greg up to start us off. May I please have a mover and a seconder that this report be received? That's moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Kai Fong. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Councillor Maxwell.
Madam Mayor, because I chair the regional branch for NZCT, I won't take part in the discussion and the voting, so I'll just sit close by.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. We note that. So I'd now like to hand over to Greg, and we also welcome Dr. Grant Hewison, who is joining us by Zoom. Kia ora. Okay, over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Your Worship, and morning, councillors. Thank you, Dr. Hewison, for joining us online today. Dr. Hewison has been instrumental in the review of this policy, and so we thought it would be the right decision to have him online for any technical questions around this policy. I thought we'd just take an opportunity to take a step back this morning. Sorry, Gomothy, if you can just get us moving on to the next slide. Try it again. I thought it might be a good time just to take a step back and have a look at sort of the last 18 months and some work that's coming up as well. You'll be familiar with this slide. There's quite a lot of work has gone into the policy and bylaw space over the last 18 months, and just wanting to highlight that this forms part of a suite of changes or policies that have been adopted over the last year or so to curb harm in our district. And so, as you'll see up there, we've got the dog control bylaw, which was adopted late last year. We've done the local alcohol policy a month or two ago, last month. There's the traffic bylaw, general bylaw reviews that are currently out. and the performance parking and footpath trading policies that are currently being reviewed as well. So this forms part of that whole suite of policies for our district. The gambling policy itself, so the Gambling Act 2003 and the Racing Industry Act 2020 requires us to adopt a policy on Class 4 venues and TAB venues. Rotorua has a combined Class 4 and TAB venue policy. This latest iteration was adopted in 2020. The purpose of this policy is to control growth of gambling and to minimize the social harm it causes. So following review of this policy, a workshop was held in September last year. The current policy has a cap of 350 pokie machines within the CBD, with no relocations outside of the CBD, or a sinking lid, if you want to call it that, outside of the CBD. The current available number, and I would like to take this opportunity just to correct the report, that did say 389 machines. The number is 362 based on the review that we did. So if you can just please keep that in mind. The new venues can open within the CBD, providing that they comply with the location restrictions, and there are a couple of restrictions within that. And the total number of pokies actually drops below 350, which it currently isn't. A new venue can have a maximum of 9 pokie machines. No relocations are allowed for existing venues outside of the CBD unless they're relocating into the CBD. The policy review must be conducted every 3 years, and the social impact of gambling within the district must be considered. So the key findings of this review is that there are 24 Class 4 venues representing 2.3% of the venues nationally. Now this is a higher proportion to the 1.5% national population that we have. There's an increased risk of gambling harm due to our low deprivation in our community. 71% of pokie machines are based in the poorest areas of Rotorua. The Class 4 gambling venue closures have plateaued in recent years, so we've seen quite a steady number over the last 5 or 6 years. Losses from gambling have increased year on year since COVID, and you can see that by the numbers there, reaching around almost 27 million in 2023. 40% of the proceeds from pokie machines should be distributed back into the community for authorised purposes, although there's no requirement for this to be returned into the district where the gambling proceeds are collected. As you can see, in 2023, nearly 32% was returned. The options that we're putting in front of you today for consideration is option 1 is to strengthen the existing policy. So that's to replace the 350 cap with the sinking lid policy. No relocations to be allowed within the CBD, and this option would require a consultation via special consultative procedure as it's a change to the current policy. Our recommendation, though, is option 2, which is to roll over the existing policy, because we're currently not under that cap of 350, and we see the number that is sort of plateaued. So actually, even if we went into a sinking lid policy strategy at this stage, we don't believe that that's going to be beneficial or effective at this point. Following our workshop in September, the Mayor did send out letters to the corporate societies within the Rotorua area and just asked a number of key questions which are outlined in the letter that's an attachment to this paper. 5 out of the 7 responded, and most confirmed that they have their own policies that are requiring them to return 40% of the proceeds back into the community that they were generated. What they did highlight are some issues or challenges that they have around data and timing of financial years, etc. So that is something that we will pick up and carry on working with these societies to understand, where we sit in this space. So our recommendation, as noted, was to roll over the current policy. Our next steps are to annually request information from the individual trusts and ensure that applications from the district are of a quality that they can be accepted. And then following this adoption, a review would be conducted in 2028 to have a relook at this policy. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Question from Councillor Brown, followed by Councillor Pedersen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Greg. Where did 350 come from? Can you refresh our memories?
I might throw that one across to Dr. Hewson, who was involved in the 2020 and the 2017 policies. Dr. Hewson?
Apologies, Councillor, I didn't quite hear the question. If you wouldn't mind just asking again.
I was just curious as to where the 350 number came from the previous review. How was that generated?
It was just some analysis that was done a number of years ago that was an appropriate cap, considering the number of poker machines that were present at that time.
Been refreshed, and because essentially the cap is below the current numbers, it remains a useful benchmark. With the review in 2028, again, I think it would be appropriate to refresh analysis of whether that is the right level, and it may be at that time that it's useful to lower the cap or move to another option. But certainly at this point, there's no advantage in lowering the cap, which would require you to undertake special consultation with the community. And we think the effort involved in that, considering the advantage that might play out, is not worth the expense and time and effort for the council. So at this point, that 350 remains an appropriate level, and it's based on historical information, but it is reviewed every time the policy is reviewed.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Greg, just a couple of questions. Firstly, determining what a community facility or education facility is, would you say the museum is a community facility?
Sorry, Councillor, from my understanding, I'm looking across at JP, these are outlined in the district plan as what their definitions are. I would have to go back and test that one specifically against how that is categorised.
Given that there is education that takes part in that facility, then that would likely be, wouldn't
Possibly,
it?
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question relates to the workshop that we had in September last year. I'm pretty clear, my memory serves me, that we were hoping to get representatives from each of the trusts to come and have a kōrero with us and see if we could work out a way that we could improve the amount of the level of the funding that goes back to our community. I understand Her Worship sent a letter, but my understanding was that we were going to have a conversation with them to see if we could work together to find a better pathway. And the other point was to see if there was a legitimate need for somebody or some resources to support community organisations in making their applications so that they got a better outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Yes, correct. There were discussions around inviting the corporate societies in. We felt that the initial response or the initial letter from the Mayor would be a starting point for us and at least develop the base data for us to start having those conversations. We do believe that there's a real opportunity for us to still get together with these societies and understand where their roadblocks might be from our community and how best we can support them. So I feel that that's a following step that we can still take.
So the scope is there for future work?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll now go online to Councillor Kiriopa.
Thank you very much. Sorry, just waiting for my video to start. Can you hear me okay?
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
But just try to speak up a little. Thank you.
So if anybody has asked these questions and I've missed it, I apologise. I'm just seeing that the no relocations allowed within the CBD is the only option that we've come up with outside of staying with what exists. Can I ask how often are relocations happening, or in the last 10 years, say, how many pokie machines or these businesses, how many have relocated anywhere into the city or anywhere?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. So, Councillor Kiriopa, within the review document that we have, page 4 outlines sort of what the different societies are. We've also outlined what changes have been made. Since then, there are not a lot of movements with the pokie machines that we've seen. So the 2020 review itself had 389 capacity. We're now down at 362. and that's in a 3-year period. I could go back 10 years, but we haven't seen a significant drop in the last 5 years.
Thanks. So, second question, if that's right. Because I'm just interested that the only option that's being presented is no relocations allowed within the CBD. And so my second question is, have we engaged with gambling problem associations that deal with that sort of thing to ask what might be some other potential strengthening or initiatives that council might be able to do within our policy? Have we engaged with them at all to see if there's any other options that we could be looking at? Because I mean, as we can see, problem gambling is rising in Rotorua. We've already got more gambling machines than anywhere else in the country, and somehow we're not making any difference whatsoever. So I'm just interested, are council staff just trying to think about what might be some options, or are we actually engaging with those people who are experts or specialists in gambling, and what they might see as some potential solutions that we could look at as a council?
Thank you, Councillor. I might throw across to Dr. Harrison shortly just to outline what we had mentioned in the workshop previously about what the policy actually can do and the effectiveness that it might have. But we do have teams within the organisation that do or have worked with societies and gambling trusts as well as organisations that to try and understand exactly where we sit in this space. But I might just pass across to Dr. Harrison to understand just to explain the teeth that the policy actually has with regards to this issue.
Thank you for your question, Councillor, and to be assured that we have been through the review process in communication with a range of problem gambling organisations, and part of my role was to assess what is best practice around the country in terms of other councils and their approach to these policies. The difficulty is that the Gambling Act has very few options in terms of what these policies are able to achieve. And essentially the two options are to reduce the cap and to introduce a no relocations policy. But in undertaking an analysis of what is occurring in Rotorua, as I said earlier, the number of shares are above the cap, so there's really little advantage in reducing the cap further. And in terms of relocations, because there just haven't been the relocations that would cause concern, again, having a no relocations policy won't have a practical advantage in terms of policy change. However, what the council has been doing, and you've been showing some leadership in this space, is outside of the Gambling Act statutory framework. The Mayor's letters to the societies requesting information has brought back information that I think is useful in terms of understanding what is occurring and what other non-gambling policy options might be. As Greg said, perhaps undertaking that exercise once a year just to keep that information coming through would be appropriate. And having a korero with the societies about the effects of gambling harm and how they're managing that amongst the community, as well as what applications are being made for funding are coming from the community and what could be done to improve those so that they're more successful. So the funds that are available are coming back as much as possible into the Rotorua community. So I think in terms of my perception of what you are doing and my guidance, I suppose, in terms of what you're doing, you're playing a leadership role that not many other councils, if any, are taking in that space. And there may be some more thought to be put into what could be done outside of the policy, but in terms of the policy itself, our recommendation is essentially to roll it over to avoid the requirements of special consultation when the practical outcomes of any policy change won't be much of an advantage, well, really no advantage at all to your community. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor. I think it is a really important question. I think councils around the country really struggle with this legislation and the limitations it places on councils and what they can do. And so working outside of the strict statutory framework and doing things such as your council has done in this space, I think is a really valuable way of trying to make the improvements that are so necessary in communities that are facing a lot of harm from this type of gambling.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response. Just checking if there are any further questions from online. There to be none. Any questions in the room? No. So what I'll ask is if there is a mover and a seconder that Council adopts the Class 4 and TAB Venue Policy 2025, and that Council notes the responses from the corporate societies regarding donating proceeds back into community projects in Rotorua. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder? That's seconded by Councillor Lee. Now we open up if there's any discussion.
Sorry, Your Worship, could I just ask for clarification? That's option 2 of the 2 options that were presented? The recommended?
Yes.
One? Thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Any discussion on this item? Councillor Brown.
Your Worship, thank you. I'm happy to support it, and I accept the explanation on the 350, but if our numbers represent 2.3% of the total and a population of 1.5, I suggest in future that the target might be better representative of our population makeup. And I'm happy to support it today, but and the explanation is good, but I think even if it's virtue signalling or signalling to our gambling suppliers that we would like to see the numbers reduced, but that's where I kind of sit with it, for what it's worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the Chair. I'd like to thank our team for our work on this. I too, like Councillor Brown, will be happy to support the motion under option 2. I hear very loudly the concerns that Councillor Kiriopa's raised, and they're very legitimate concerns, which I think we all share. About a month ago, we all came together to try and put some steps in to reduce the harm caused by alcohol, and there's no doubt that the harm caused by gambling is just as impactful on our community. Sadly, we are, in my opinion, straitjacketed by the legislation that we have to abide by. Practically speaking, what could we do? We could do things like insisting that perhaps FPOS machines, standalone FPOS machines, be removed from premises that have pokie machines. But forgive me, but most of those places that I've seen, particularly around town, have very close access to a money machine by a bank anyway. So for the practical purposes of removing a machine, there's still access right outside in most places for access to a bank-orientated money. Personally, myself too, I find it very hard that the government somehow expects us to reduce gambling but not give us powers over TAB. The amount of TAB pods where there is no human involvement or the opportunity to monitor, for me, makes it very unequal. If there are very strict guidelines on those places that have pokie machines in particular, in terms of monitoring and cameras, etc. like that, yet people on the latest TAB pods, they have FPOS access and internet access to their money accounts, which no one can monitor or is expected to, or is covered by legislation. So for me, trying to be heavy-handed on one to try and fix when we can't fix the other one, for me shows that there's quite a bit of problems with the current legislation, and perhaps next time those around this table that, like LG or attend LGNZ orientated meetings, perhaps that's something they could perhaps bring up for the government to consider amending the legislation. Because for me, we're sort of being asked to deal with something, but not given the tools or the opportunities to actually affect gambling right across the board. So I'll be happy, unfortunately. I would like to do more, Again, just that word practicality, I think I'll be happy to stick with the status quo, but I would hopefully like to see future councils, but also the government play a bigger part in helping us address these issues. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I took all the comments of my two learned colleagues next to me, and I would also just like to take this opportunity to emphasise that we really need to put effort into ensuring that we get maximum return in our community for the money that's going into those machines. It needs to come back. 26,677,654 is a lot of money, and we're only getting 8.5 of that. That to me is unacceptable. What we as a council try to do with our community grants and funding is minuscule compared to that. That would make a far greater difference to our community if we could have access to that compared to what we try to do with our limited resources. So I hope that the next council takes this as a major initiative and drives it forward. But I support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? No, I'll just also add a few comments as well. Look, I think it was a very good strategy for us to send the letter to the Gaming Trust and actually question and ensure that this community is receiving the proceeds that it should be entitled to. But I do want to say that many of us in the community are deeply concerned around the morals of actually, even though it benefits the community, it's still being collected by an activity that we know causes significant harm in our community. So it is a very challenging topic, but I do want to acknowledge that we do need assistance from the government to have policies in place to actually deal with one of the bigger issues, which is the online gambling. We hear of social media influencers paid up to $500,000 at times to promote online gambling. And when you consider our young people, we want to make sure that there is not only access to support, but also processes and policies in place to prevent harmful activities being promoted to them in such a manner. So I do know that I certainly asked some of those questions, and it's very difficult within the influence that we have as council, but certainly something that I can see us continue to advocate for to prevent harm in our Rotorua community. So thank you very much, everybody, for your discussion. Also, thank you to the staff in preparation of this. We do have a mover and a seconder for this, so I will now put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. And we will note that Councillor Maxwell didn't participate in it, but we welcome you back to the table. Thank you. So we're now going to go to the adoption of Water Services Delivery Plan. I do apologise, there are a number of different attachments in here, but this is on page 12 of our main agenda, the report, but the Water Services Delivery Plan is uploaded as a separate document in your Stella. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? That's moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. And I now invite Stavros and Russell to overview this report.
Good morning, Morena. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will take the reports, as read, and myself and Russell more than happy to take any questions. I would like to make a few comments, and then it will be open to elected members to question, us for any aspects of this plan. I just wanted to emphasize, in my opinion, in our view, this water delivery plan is a significant, if not a major focus on Three Waters for a number of years. The government has attempted, in recent years to improvise and navigate, those significant issues arising from the management of the Three Water services. You would note that the delivery plan in front of you is a significant document. It required a combined effort, and it was led by Russell here as a manager for our strategic functions of our infrastructure. But it involves behind these documents a significant contribution from our finance team, for our subject matter experts, our asset management, our operational staff, our collaboration with with external expertise and so on. Of course, as a result of the fact that the councils are required to submit a water services delivery plan to the Department of Internal Affairs for approval. This plan has to bring together evidence and include the council's planned water services delivery model. It must outline how the council will meet the new financial and regulatory requirements under local water done well. It must identify the current state of water services, demonstrate that it's financially sustainable, and must ensure that all drinking water quality standards would be met. And also that the three water services will and are able to support housing growth and urban development specified in the long-term plan. Again, I would like to emphasize that underpinning all this information, that is our financial strategy. And this council has, for the first time, structure is 30-year infrastructure strategy since 2018. And what you see in this delivery plan basically is a reflection of that infrastructure strategy, which obviously gets amended every 3 years to reflect emerging new information, new circumstances, new regulations, and new conditions that we need to meet. But we do have the platform for that infrastructure strategy to inform the delivery plan. And of course, underpinning the infrastructure strategy are the various asset management plans, our asset management policies, our drinking water safety, operational documents. It's our regulatory compliance documents, our health and safety compliance documents, and all you see here is an aggregation of all that information. Elected members should know that the draft plan was delivered to the DIA in early July, after the elected members made some decisions in June in order to give them a heads up, and we received their feedback about a few days after our plan. Based on that feedback, the draft delivery plan was also slightly amended to reflect that feedback from the DIA, and obviously that elected members have confirmed the council's delivery model in June. The proposed delivery plan model for the water services meets, as far as we can tell from the feedback from the DIA at this point in time, meets financial sustainability requirements and also enables the council to conduct a detailed assessment of the advantages or the possible advantages of multi-council CCO with other TLAs in the region. The council's current long-term plan, the 2024-34 long-term plan, is based on water services being delivered in-house until 2028, and the outcome of decisions to be made post-2027 will be able to be incorporated in the 2027-37 long-term plan. So in front of you, it is the delivery plan we have provided to DIA and slightly adjusted, and therefore we have in front of you a set of recommendations for your consideration. And to that effect, happy to take any questions you may have with regards to the delivery plan. Otherwise, you have your own debate and move from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Maxwell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Morena Stavros, can I ask about something on page 14, which bullet point, it says allows time for authentic engagement with mana whenua and the community on which water services delivery system is best for Rotorua in the long term. Last week at the local government New Zealand AGM, there was strong support from around the whole country. 79% is against 11% that there be more meaningful engagement, joint management agreements. And we've been doing that here with Ngāti Rangiwaris and Taniwha Springs, and just only 2 weeks ago with Kearoa. So are we in the sweet spot, or is there something there that could be a problem?
I'll try and respond to that. I think Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. I think note that this delivery plan anticipates that the 3 water services will be delivered by an in-house delivery service of the Council. This Council and previous Council have made decisions about the relationship, relationship management, relationship enhancement and security of water supplies through various relationship protocol agreements, and the latest one with Ngāti Kiaroa in the Karamutekina and Ngāti Rangi Weiweihi and other relationships. That's a baseline for our connectivity with Mana Whenua. If a new model will be explored later on, I think that baseline needs to be maintained, and we anticipate, as you said, that probably in some respects we are ahead of many other TLAs in that area. So that's our baseline. Moving forwards, obviously, those considerations will be part and parcel of the workings and the explorations, and the need to demonstrate that those fundamental relationships agreements will be maintained and enhanced going forward in the future. So that's how we see it.
Thank you. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, team, for all the work that's gone into this piece of documentation in front of us. I note that we're asking to do a detailed assessment of the multi-council water services CCO, and we've allowed in the plan about 6 to 7 months to do that bit of work. Can you just assure us that that's sufficient time to see that piece of work through, because it will be quite a significant piece and it will be engaging with other councils as well. So I just would...
thank you, Councillor Barker. Well, I will give my views about it, and my chief executive, who is leading that process at the regional level, perhaps may want to elaborate a bit more on that. Our view is that every council at the moment, ourselves and the other regions, TLAs, have to provide a delivery plan to the DIA by September. So having done that, that means you have, I would say, 80% of the work done. And what remains to be formulated beyond that is the fundamental question, is whether consolidating these delivery plans into a single one demonstrably delivers tangible improvements to those plans, where there is a willingness to arrive at some governance structures, an appointment of protocols and board of directors and so on. So the 6 to 8 months perhaps to address these issues is a reasonable time. So at the fundamental data-driven information, we are ready, because all that information will be available to the DIA, and there's no grey area. There is either comply or you're sustainable, you're not sustainable. Then you have to explore the possibility of, what if, how we, what benefits you can get from a multi-council, TLA. So the timing might be a bit sort of ambitious, but we think it's doable, unless Andrew wants to enhance onto that.
Yeah, thank you, Stavros and Councillor Barker. It's a good question. How much time is enough time is quite subjective. I suspect there are elements within government that think this is too much time, and the expectation has been communicated to us a number of times that they would prefer for a final decision to be made by this council before the elections and commit to a 10-year plan before the 2nd of September. As I've indicated with my discussions with DIA and through all the discussions we've had around this table, our preferred option is to take the time to consider that rather than work necessarily on the time frame of central government at this point, because that is of advantage to our community in the long term. It is important, and I've signalled that in the pre-election report, that this is one of the most significant pieces of work the next council will be taking on and making a decision on. I've impressed in the discussions with the other councils the importance of all of our councils starting work on this as soon as possible after the elections, because we do need to move at pace to meet the timeframes that we're outlining or proposing for you to adopt. And the benefit of that is that we would align that final decision with the next long-term plan, which from a corporate planning and from a discussion of the community is, to us, in our view, the logical time to have it. So we think it's a reasonable time, provided that everyone hits the ground running after the next elections, and that those discussions happen crisply and with focus and purpose to meet the timelines. I will say that all of the other councils that we are discussing and are named in this report have adopted resolutions that are very similar and are committing to the same time frame. So at least we've got, with this triennium, some political alignment on the timeline and on the process we'll go through.
Thank you. Appreciate the answers, because it is a significant piece of work, and I would like to think that when the engagement plan that is thought out, that we actually touch base with our community regularly along the way, so they have an opportunity to feed back into this process as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I will ask a quick question. Just regarding the recent announcements also coming from government, in particular Minister Chris Bishop, and their changes to the RMA national direction and stopping some plan changes that councils are undertaking. Understanding that we have a significant amount of housing growth, but also in the upcoming years a significant amount of investment into our stormwater infrastructure, such as dams and detention ponds. Do we see that the recent announcements may have any changes to what we have put forward in our water services, understanding that stormwater is quite a significant part? The intention from the government during the announcement was that it will apparently save council a significant amount of time and costs. So I just want to check, while I'm happy to approve the water services delivery plan, whether we think there may be any changes subject to recent announcements, which I do appreciate consultation on that is currently open at the moment too.
I think that two elements, in my opinion, to this question, Your Worship. One is that if the government's intention is to streamline and simplify some of the RMA processes, which sometimes take a long time to satisfy before you actually move from a concept, of the design to the execution of the design and the regulatory arrangements, that ought to be welcome by everyone. However, our delivery plan assumes that the fundamental need to satisfy national performance standards, either for drinking water standards or discharges, to the environment, or flood risk mitigation processes will remain, broadly, intact. I think what the Minister is signalling is that some degree of frustration about how long does it take to get a resource consent to implement the projects, and if that occurs, then it'll be a welcome project, a welcome improvement. However, in the context of the overall delivery plan, it will make some difference in terms of the speed of actually executing projects, but not necessarily about what needs to be done.
Thank you. There appears to be no further questions. So what I'll do is I'll ask if there's a mover and a seconder, and then we'll open up if there's any discussion. That's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by myself, and I'll read it out. That the Council note that the Water Services Delivery Plan is based on retaining water services delivery in-house until 2028, then either transferring to a multi-council water services CCO or as a fallback option retaining an in-house business unit. Adopt the Water Services Delivery Plan and approve the submission of the plan to the Department of Internal Affairs, and finally authorise the Chief Executive to make any minor changes to submission of the Water Services Delivery Plan to the Secretary for Local Government. Is there any discussion on this item? No? Sorry, Councillor Lee, did you have... Yeah.
Sure, Councillor Barker can go first if she likes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a wee bit sceptical of the legislation, but I understand that central government makes laws and it's asked us to produce this plan by September. And I'd like to thank the Chief Executive for what he's come up with, which is a rather nuanced plan. And it's going to keep some options open as we head down the path. I'm sceptical about whether or not a CCO will actually be able to deliver efficiencies among multiple councils, given the wide geographical split. But the future council will have options available to it. I'm also a wee bit sceptical about some of the wording in the plan. In particular, I'm looking at the principles here that I'll just read it out. The principles of Te Ao Māori are intrinsic to our decision making at all levels, and this is especially so for our water services activities. Ways in which the Rotorua Lakes Council is giving effect to the principles of Te Ao Māori start with the fundamentals of building relationships and partnerships with mana whenua and the relevant rohi. One of the outcomes of fostering partnerships with mana whenua has been the return of and planned return of land that many RLC water supply sources are situated onto iwi. I note that the latest return of land to iwi pertaining to our largest water supply in Rotorua is going to add about 0.25% to ratepayers' rates, not just for this year, but on into the foreseeable future. I think it's decision-making like this which perhaps explains why rates have gone up over the last 3 years on average 32%, while inflation has increased over the last 3 years around 12%. So our rates have gone up almost 3 times the rate of inflation. And there are other reasons why we haven't been able to get our rates increases under control. Taking all of that into account, I will be abstaining from this vote and understanding that we have to comply with the government's instruction to produce a plan. This is a plan, and let's get on with it.
Just check if there are any other comments before we go to the mover. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm not convinced. Partnerships with mana whenua are a key part of the way this council operates. I'm not convinced that a multi-council CCO that is independent of us and making their own decisions without any answer to our community, without being answerable to our community, will actually hold that dear to them. I'm not convinced that decisions made by them will be in the best interests of all of our people, not just mana whenua, but all of our people. I'm also concerned that central government have seemed to have made a one-size-fits-all policy with local water done well, instead of bringing those into line that needed to be brought into line. I have to tip my hat off to our team. You know, Rotorua has got one of the best three waters systems in the country, without a doubt. Sure, we had our hiccups along the way, but we're still pretty damn good. Why are we being threatened with the big stick like everybody else who deserves to be threatened? We haven't had people dying through bad management. Other councils have, and they needed to be brought into line. This council is not. And another example of their attitude is the levy that they've forced upon us. Not only are we having to do the work, we're actually having to pay for it as well. I don't think that's fair at all. And finally, I've not got any confidence that local water done well won't somehow deteriorate in 10 years' time into water done woefully, like we've seen with some of the major councils around the country recently. I cannot support this, but I do tip my hat to the team for the work they've put into it.
Thank you. Any last comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. For a mayoral candidate to sit on the fence is not great, fella. Abstain? You know, come on. You've got all the information, make a decision. I appreciate my learned councillor to the left who makes a point, and this one. I get where you're coming from, councillor, but I think this legislation's been pushed down our throat. But the team needs to go through the process to prove what I think what you're saying is right. So we have to support it, in my belief. We have to get on with the work, but let's see what shakes out at the other end, and if it's what I think it might be, we'll retain the ownership of the waters.
Thank you. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's such a privilege to sit here on the learned side of the table today. Your Worship, I took completely everything that Councillor Patterson says, but we did have this conversation 6 weeks ago. I accept I was on the losing team that time. I won't be abstaining despite my concerns because I was here to make decisions. That's why I believe people put me here, not just to blab, continue on and then just sit on the fence and not make a decision or follow principles. So I'll be voting in favour reluctantly, but as I say, we've had this discussion 6 weeks ago and we put our votes where it was. I wasn't successful that day, but we move on. So I think this is the best way forward with some, shall we say, legislation that, you know, frankly could do with a lot of improving in my opinion, but there it is. So I'll be supportive of this. Thank you.
Point of order, or perhaps a point of clarification, actually, Madam Chair.
What is your point?
I'd just like to clarify the standing orders. I understand that elected members are able to vote in 3 different ways: for a motion, abstention, or against the motion, and how we vote actually affects the numbers when the votes are tallied. And to suggest by 2 of my colleagues that I'm not so convinced are learned just at the moment, to suggest that abstaining is some kind of invalid vote or sitting on a fence. It's actually, I'm here, I'm voting, and this is how I'm voting. And I've explained the reasons why. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so that was not a point of order, but I think your colleagues around the table, as we have tried many times, are trying to encourage you to place a vote as the people have given you the opportunity to do so. And abstaining is actually an option of not voting. You either vote for or against, and abstaining is choosing not to do that. But we will move on. We'll take final comments before we go to Councillor Barker. We'll go Councillor Maxwell and then myself and then Councillor Barker. Sorry, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, one has to make a decision, in my opinion, and I'll be supporting the recommendations and that are here. Whilst last term, beginning of last term, I did put out there that I was supportive strongly of the 3 waters, but a year later, change of government has moved on. And this one here, I want to see progress, and we are making progress here. We touched on what, even though to my right doesn't seem to feel that we're not making any progress with Mana Whenua, with all the management arrangements that we've done with some of our iwi already, we are benefiting. So I'll be supporting the motion that's here. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. And I'll just conclude before we hand over to Councillor Barker. Look, I want to acknowledge the significant speed in which we have come up with such a strategic document, but also that this council listened to the community who weren't ready or yet willing to amalgamate, you could say, with other councils, and we are proposing the in-house until 2028. So that does give our community the reassurance that we do have some time to truly determine whether or not not, there will be benefits, and of course what our water services could look like in the future. There is without a doubt the ability to potentially save costs, and anything that we can do to decrease the cost to our residents, we should really be looking into. And so we look forward to doing that with an open mind and seeing where and if there are solutions to partner with our nearby councils. But we have, of course, learnt the lessons of the past, where really large amalgamations don't reap the benefits, such as that of the tertiary institutes and also our DHB. So we will be proceeding with caution, but I do, as other councillors already have, just want to push back on what I see as the continuing bashing of Māori and iwi. It is really, really disappointing to hear that at this table, especially complaining about such a small cost for securing 60% of our district's water supply. That was $2.4 million off the top of my head. For the cost of securing the Karamu Takinga Spring. And the other options, if councillors read their agendas and actually did their work, was over $100 million plus for other options. And so I think that this is really fortunate that our mana whenua have continuously and generously not only enabled land but also resource such as water to be so readily available, and we look forward to working in partnership and continuing that with our iwi, who have always advocated for the betterment of everyone in our district. So we'll leave it at that, and I'll like to now hand over to Councillor Barker. What is your point of order?
Misrepresentation.
What is the misrepresentation? Please be brief.
Council owned the land upon which the water supply sat up until the last few years.
Councillor Lee,
that being the case,
Councillor Lee, that's not misrepresentation.
That being the
case, you have a strong personal opinion, but that is not the view of council. We will continue on.
You're interrupting me, Madam Chair. I haven't had a chance to
We will continue on, Councillor Lee. This is not an opportunity for you.
My misrepresentation.
Councillor Lee, I will give you one more chance to please be quiet and let us continue on with this meeting. Thank you. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have in front of us today a water services delivery plan that has had a tremendous amount of work put into it, as the team has talked about today. It demonstrates that we are sustainable, financially sustainable in-house, which is a really good signal to our community that we're doing a great job. We meet all our requirements regulatory-wise across the spectrum of our water services, and we can be proud of that fact. This delivery plan allows our team the time to investigate further if there are indeed any benefits to combining with another water services into a water services entity with other councils. And it remains to be seen whether that is the case, but we at least need the time to do that work and do it thoroughly, as well as communicating with our community and engaging and allowing them an opportunity to have a say as well. So this gives us the space to do those things. I take on board the concerns of the councillors across the floor who have mentioned the bluntness of the legislation with regards to how it affects councils that are already doing a good job. I also acknowledge their concerns around the levies that have been charged to councils across the country in order to be regulated. So I take on board all those things, but our job today is to decide a way forward for our community with regards to our waters. And this plan today that's been put together, I think, fits that purpose and allows us the time to do the job the best that we can for our community now and into the future. I just would like to address a couple of comments, particularly one around inflation and our rates going up. I see that Councillor Lee quoted 12% increase in inflation over, I guess that's cumulative, and that rates have cumulatively gone up 32%. I think if you look at the inflationary impact on these services that we deliver with regards to infrastructure, that the cumulative inflation on those kinds of costs have gone up at least 30% over that period of time. And that is where the bulk of our costs come from. So to quote consumer CPI against our costs, I think is inaccurate and not helpful. So just my observation on those comments. But with regards to this today, I'm happy to support this, and I look forward to seeing how our community goes forward and the results of the work that's going to be done. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barker. I will ask in this instance if you could please raise your hand just to accurately record the voting. We do have a mover by Councillor Barker, seconded by myself. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any against? Thank you. And we do note that Councillor Wang on Zoom was for this. Abstention? Thank you. And that is carried. So we will move on to our next item. We'll take the Rotorua District Licensing Committee. If we get time, we'll go to the Charua reports, and then we will take our break. This is on your main agenda, page 17, and I'd like to invite JP and also Kurt to overview the report. Can I please have a mover and a second before that? It's moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Kai Fong. All those in favour to receive the Rotorua District Licensing Committee Resourcing and Recruitment Report, please say aye. Any against? That's carried.
Good morning, Your Worship. We won't dwell too much on this and just simply answer questions. This is just an administrative item seeking your support for increasing the pool of potential committee members. So it doesn't actually cost us anything more because it's about the hearings themselves. Just because of the legislation change, hearings are going for significantly longer because of the opportunity for the public to make submissions. So we're just seeking your support to add some more committee members to our pool.
Thank you very much. We'll open up for any questions. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to check with you on it won't cost extra. I get exactly what you're doing and I'm supporting of it. But on one hand, you're saying it's a lot harder because we're getting a lot more submissions, a lot more reading and more demands, but at the same time, we're saying it's not going to cost more. Can I just check with you guys on that statement? Please?
Sorry, the extra pool of people don't technically cost us anything because they're just our availability. But Councillor, you're correct in pointing that out to us. Because of the length of the hearings and the processing time, it is costing us more to undertake this process under the new legislation. So for the first time, where it's actually costing the ratepayers to subsidise the cost of our district licensing activity. So one of the things that we'll be bringing to the next council is the appropriate steps, which actually requires a bylaw, that we can actually put in place our own fees that cover fully the cost of what now is a significantly larger operation for us in district licensing.
Thank you, and we'll go online to Councillor Wing and then Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Thank you, Stuart and JP, for the report.
Is the main purpose for this obviously to provide... Oh, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, no problem. Hopefully you can hear me now. But thank you, Kurt, and thank you, JP, for the report. My first question was just around the I guess the purpose of this. So I guess this would also increase obviously the number of the committee, so that it would ensure there probably would be a better I guess attendance, because as you've mentioned in the report, it is a part-time position. Everyone else, they do have other commitments and responsibilities. So have there been cases where they haven't been able to sit due to those requirements?
Arrange a hearing and get all of the parties, including our DLC members there, given they do have lives outside of their DLC duties. And the second point there that I'd just like to make is that the other purpose for additional members is just increasing the diversity of views, opinions and representation across our community from what it currently is.
Thank you. And second question was just around, is there any training or support that we're providing to the DLC members to handle that extra complexity and also the pressure that is coming with the job now, to ensure that we're supporting them to be able to do a good job?
Very much so. So Council's role, or particularly mine as the Secretary, is to support the District Licensing Committee. So that really starts at the recruitment phase when we look into the competencies and using a national guide to make sure we're getting the right type of people onto the DLC. That's then bolstered by the DLC themselves, who will often have new members sit alongside at a hearing, observing until they feel confident, and then just starting with your lower level applications such as duty managers before moving on to anything more complex. So definitely good training and support the whole way along. And also supported by our governance team as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Your Worship, I'm happy to move the motion.
Okay, thank you. We'll note that you have moved, and we'll continue on with the questions. We've got Councillor Maxwell and Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you. I've got two very quick questions. One here, I was just curious. Thank you for the report. Just curious, it says here, DLC members must have experience relevant to alcohol licensing, but don't give a definition. What do you think they really mean on that one? First question.
Thank you, Councillor. So that purposefully can mean a number of things and is quite broad. Often we will have people that it may not be direct alcohol licensing experience, but definitely, so for instance, our current committee and chair, we've got a depth of legal expertise in there, which is becoming more prevalent as our applicants, I guess, are becoming legally represented. We didn't used to see that sort of 3 or 4 years ago. We've got others in the committee who are more familiar with retail and commercial aspects, so digging into the accounting of off licences, for instance. So it is quite broad. So it would be rare that they've actually had direct alcohol experience, although they may have owned or worked in a alcohol premise in the past, but they still need to have relevant knowledge in the other aspects that they need to perform their role.
Thank you. And just the other quick one that I've got here. I like the idea that you want to have hearings more accessible to the public, such as venues outside council, community halls. Let people see our community halls and marae and churches, and really outside the square, why not even a bar?
So there's certainly a range of different premises that we could use. We would always be mindful, I guess, of the appropriateness and just the being able to have an appropriately controlled environment for the hearing as well, along with other aspects such as we're required to keep an audio record, etc. So we'd be more prone to use venues that are, I guess, more naturally set up to hold meetings of some sort.
Thank you. Support the motions.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Thank you, gentlemen, for your report. I'm a little bit intrigued by the argument that if we have more objections, and I appreciate under the new legislation changes, we will have more objections, and especially probably from outside of the district. But that will only affect the amount of reading, surely? As far as what this, I appreciate the money side you'll come back to a future council with, but...
Certainly, so the reading and I guess the two examples that are highlighted in the report, so each and every one of those objections must be read, understood and critiqued for eligibility by the Secretary initially and then the DLC in doing that. But then when it comes to a hearing, we actually haven't had a lot of people objecting to licences in the past. So there needs to also be allowance for that time, which means the hearings go longer for people to essentially turn up and have their say if they wish.
Totally, and I accept that, but given that many of these will be outside of a district, reality says that the number actually turning up to discuss or speak to their objection will be relatively small. I would just make the fact when you say we don't often get very large, I mean the Rotorua one, when that was first given, the Rotorua hot pools, when that was first given a liquor licence, received quite a few objections. So we have had, this isn't a brand new isolation. I suppose I'm concerned, I do have although you say it's not going to cost us, we have 6 members. And if there's an issue around whether their availability because of work, I mean, this I assume from what I remember when you put the report to us when we selected the current 6, I presume it was made crystal clear that their availability would be required in reading, which, they don't have to do during working hours. They have, outside time too, which we pay them for, I take it. I'm just a little concerned that we're not really focusing, if there's an issue of ill health or people not being able to attend to their duty, which they've put up their hand for, I don't maybe we should be looking at that first rather than just increasing the pool.
Yeah, thank you. So just starting with your first point, yes, we have had an odd number of large objections. I think Fresh Choice was the other one in Tingo that springs to mind. What we're really saying is that these definitely appear to be becoming more frequent, and arguably that's the whole intent of the Amendment Act, is for the community to be able to participate more. In terms of the availability, yes, absolutely, people put their hand up to be available. What we're seeing though is also a desire from the District Licensing Committee themselves to be able to pick from a pool of people, depending on the type of application, location even, to assemble what they consider to be the most appropriate members out of their committee for a particular application. Just having talked about earlier, they've all got different areas of expertise, so that can differ from application type to application type. If members were not able to attend, that would be a discussion essentially led by the chair of the District Licensing Committee, and acknowledging that that committee is independent.
So if you don't mind a supplementary very quickly, so just based on what you've just said, so forgive me from my previous experience with the Secretary, who selects the 3 members? Is that yourself?
So the Secretary assists with the recruitment, but ultimately the decision is up to a panel. It's essentially just like any other recruitment process that we run in Council.
Forgive me, sorry, I didn't make myself clear. Who selects the 3 people to sit on a hearing?
That is the chair of the DLC.
Right, so I suppose when you say you want to expand, location, for example, we need an objective to make sure that these hearings are being heard objectively. So when you say what sort of things would you want the chair to take into account?
So that's actually not a decision for the Secretary or the Council. That's completely up to the Chair as an independent commissioner to decide who out of their pool is going to appear on a hearing. We actually have no say in that.
No, forgive me, but when you say that the Chair is talking about or wants a wider, taking into account location, surely an objectivity and to make the decision based on the evidence in front is the foremost requirement. Certainly as far as that goes, according to my reading of it.
Yes, yep. I guess my only response to that would be that, you will have different levels of expertise in the different panel members, so it also comes down to who's most appropriate or has the most appropriate knowledge to sit on a particular application or case. I hear what you're saying, but that's probably the only way I can answer that.
Yeah, I think that probably opens up a whole new ballgame of problems, but thank you, Madam Chair. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. We appreciate you Checking, anyway. So I will go back to the motion, though. We have had one mover, Councillor Wang, and I'm happy to second, that Council resolves to approve the recruitment of 5 additional District Licensing Committee members. And sorry, we'll just take a final question from Councillor Patterson, and then we're open for discussion.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just going back to the actual charge-out rate, I guess you could call it. So they're charging we're offering them $102 per hour. Does that include reading time at home?
Yes, it does. So they submit a timesheet every month, which includes a record of anything that they've done for the DLC, including their preparation and reading time.
So carrying on from that, you also stated that the amount of reading that they have to do has increased? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. We are now... Sorry? Yeah, we're now open for discussion because we have a mover and a seconder. Thank you very much, JP and Kurt. Any discussion on this item? Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, Your Worship. I'll go first if you don't mind. I won't be supportive of this. I appreciate the work that's gone into the report. For me, I think 6 is sufficient. If we have issues around unavailability or perhaps due to ill health, we need to make those decisions alongside those people that put up their hand. If we're finding it difficult, we need to make sure that we've got the people put up their hand, that they're available, they knew, and I'm sure we're advised of the amount of hours and all that would be required in these hearings. This is a very serious function of council. It's important for us that these are done properly and correctly. I think we have a pretty proud history as far as appeals go. So I think by and large what we've done has worked well so far. I'm a little bit concerned to hear that there's potential for a chair to be, choosing people on the basis of the application. I would have thought for an objectivity's sake, that we would want to make sure that there's a rotated, because we would assume that all these people are on the same level, admittedly with different experience and backgrounds. So for me, I thank the gentlemen for their reports, but it hasn't convinced me, so I'm sorry, I'll be voting against. Thank you.
That's the case. Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm comfortable that this is going to... I'm comfortable with the staff advice that this is going to be helpful for this committee to operate. It's going to minimise the possibility of delays in processing applications, and in some cases that's of importance, particularly when there's a special licence being applied for. So I'll accept the staff's recommendation on this case and support it.
Thank you. Appears to be no further discussion. We'll go to the mover. Is there anything else you wish to add, Councillor Wayne?
Thank you, Worship. Just like to say that as we've heard from Kurt and JP, that the complexity of the job has significantly increased, as has the volume, and especially around the increased objections as well, as we saw with one of the applications having such a significant number. But the reality is that the job itself, being a district licensing committee member, is part-time, and they do have other commitments, other jobs as well, and to be able to get a good cohort of a good group of different experiences, a diverse group of people that represents the community and the expertise. I'm very in favour of this motion, being the mover, to really help support this function, as Councillor O'Brien mentioned, a very essential function of the council, to help support them to be able to do, continue to do a good job with the resources that they have, and the increased complexity of that world. So just with that, I'm very happy to be the mover and support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. I will just ask if we could have a show of hands to assist with the voting process. I will now put that to the vote that Council resolves to approve the recruitment of 5 additional District Licensing Committee members. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. So I'm aware it's just gone on at 11, but want to acknowledge our partners, Te Tātou Aotearoa, that are here with us. And what I'd like to do is just carry on with the Te Aroa updates, and then we will take the break. So I'd now like to invite Paul up. And also, councillors, this is on page 22 of your main agenda, and then we'll go to page 28. So page 22. Te Aroa Partnerships Progress Report. I'm happy to move. Do we have a seconder to receive? Seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour to receive the report, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you.
Aye. Tēnā koutou i te whare. Kia koe hoki te manukura. I'll take the report as read. Probably one specific highlight, there's many highlights in there. One point that I'd like to bring your attention to and is around tuamaka, which is we've started our Māori relationship work in that, and one particular piece that we've kicked off is doing a health check across 20 identified entities that are going to feed in and give us some feedback, and so we can baseline what they think of the relationships with us and how we can improve. So that's a real highlight for us, but I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? This is between page 22 and 28. Question from Councillor Maxwell.
Madam Chair, I just want to make a couple of comments, but I do have a question and I'll ask that at the end. But first of all, I want to acknowledge and commend our Manahauti Te Aroa Haurua, Paul Wardrock, for the mahi that's very obvious in this thorough report that he's given. First one is our partnering with Te Aroa, having the first hui conducted at Te Papaoru Marae on the 3rd of July, in partnership with Te Tātou. I felt it went really well, and pleasingly the feedback that I've been getting from Ngāti Whakau and Te Aroa people who did attend, positive feedback. And that's the best behaved that Councillor Lee has ever been, and I commend him as well. And just, first of all, and we've covered that already, Karamu Tākina Trust, that's a good report on what the relationship that's built there. And I wanted to go to also the report on the Matariki. That was really, really well run. And the final one is at the Rotorua Lakes, which was launched in 2017, right here in this chamber, between Te Tātou Aotearoa and Rotorua Lakes Council and Te Puni Kōkiri, the first official bilingual city. That's important. That's important. My question is, Paula, can I ask you, are you happy with the Rotorua Lakes Council, Te Aroa Tātou relationship that we've built up, that is happening right now?
Through you, Te Manukura, Councillor Maxwell, absolutely, and I think I've highlighted that at the start of the report, the progress that we've made with our whanaunga here, right to even last night when we, myself and the CEO, mostly the CEO, sat with the board and presented some updates, and that ongoing exchange and collaboration, their input at an operational level, largely at present, has been really it's they identify things that we may have missed. They provide a sounding board that the direction of travel is the right one, especially with our wider relationships that they also represent. So I think we're on a good trajectory. There's always space for improvement, and we're having those conversations after our last meeting at Tamata Kapua, which, as you've identified, was a milestone. We even went back around and said, hey, how do we make this better? So we're always having those conversations. So absolutely, we've made progress.
Thank you very much. There are no further... one final. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your report, Paul. I'm looking at page 23 of the report. I'll just read out a paragraph and then ask you a question, if I may. So, Karamu Takina Trust and RLC signed a relationship agreement on 8th of July 2025, marking another milestone between RLC and Mana Whenua. This is RLC's second relationship agreement for the supply of drinking water for the Rotorua community, and these formal relationships go a long way towards emphasising the importance we place on our relationship with iwi and hapu, and the exercising of our legislative responsibilities under Section 4 of the Local Government Act 2002, Treaty of Waitangi. Could you explain what our legislative responsibilities are, as you understand it, under Section 4?
I could bring it up to quote, but in summary, it's ensuring that we provide for participation in decision making, increasing capability and capacity of Mana Whenua in the various forms, and I'll just share on top of my book over there. We've got 13 legislative mechanisms spread across all of our responsibilities in local government that have various directions to engage, increase participation in decision-making, involvement, give effect to the treaty principles, which I know were raised at a previous meeting. They are in there, as well as references to Te Aliti. They are well articulated in all of our documents, but I'm also happy to provide a summary of that list, which is on top of my book over there, to any of the elected members if they so wish to read into those.
Okay, just referring to Section 4, I know...
Councillor Lee, is this relevant to the report?
Yes, I just read out the paragraph in the report, Madam Chair, which refers to Section 4 of the Local Government Act.
Regarding the Karamutakinga relationship agreement, is it relevant to the agreement?
I'm asking a question about the interpretation of Section 4 of the Local Government Act, which is referred to in the report here.
It's actually just referring to our legislative responsibilities, not the interpretation.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand. Is how,
perhaps we could take this discussion and we'll ask that our staff provide you with the further information, although this has been covered in detail in the past when you've raised it.
Well, I can ask another question, perhaps of you or the Chief Executive. Is it your understanding that sovereignty was ceded by the Treaty of Waitangi?
Councillor Lee, I'm very sorry, Paul. You do not have to
answer. Point of order, Madam Chair. Point of order.
Well, the reason I raised it is local government...
Sorry, point of order. Rauri, what was your point of order?
It's relevance. I don't know. I don't understand the line of questioning here.
Well, I can explain that.
No, thank you.
I'm looking at page
Councillor
23
Lee,
of the report.
do you have a final question that is... Do you have a final question that is relevant to the report before you, Councillor Lee?
Well, I was. The local government New Zealand, at the induction event that we all attended, promoted the idea that the Treaty of Waitangi did not result in the ceding of sovereignty. So I was asking what this council's view is of that.
It's relevant. Long enough. Thank you. Relevant.
This is exactly what's referred to in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Wari. We've had a point of order on relevance. That is irrelevant. If you have any a meeting at the start of the year in which you were informed, and now at the end of your term you're still asking questions. Councillor Lee, I invite you to take some time personally to familiarise yourself with our legislation.
Thank
we
you.
will now
I
move
have,
on.
Madam Chair. I was asking what the organisation's interpretation was, because it's a bit of an outlier among
You don't have to
councils, I
ask it here.
understand.
You don't have to ask it here. You can go and find out for yourself.
I have, thank
Why
you,
are you
Councillor
asking
Whitting. That's why I'm
Why are
asking
you
these
asking me?
questions.
We will carry on. We will carry on. Thank you very much, Paul, for your time. We will now move to the final one. We have the recommendations from other committees, Te Arawa Vision 20. Oh, sorry, Councillor Peterson?
Thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chair. Look, I just wanted to extend my apologies publicly that I could not attend the hui at Te Papa Ioru Marae. It was due to my wife's serious condition. I really wanted to be there because that was a special event and I wanted to be there. So again, I'm sorry I couldn't.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. So we now go to page 28 of the main agenda. Can I please have a mover and a seconder that the report recommendations from other committees, Te Arawa Vision 2050 Committee, meeting 3rd of July, be received? That's moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour to receive this, please say aye. Any against? We will take the report as read. We do have one recommendation there, and while Paul is here, we will just ask if there are any questions, and I will just read it. The committee recommends to council that staff are authorised to progress discussions with mana whenua and landowners to formalise acknowledged wāhi reorua, which is bilingual, locations as part of Rotorua Reorua. Are there any questions regarding this report? No, so I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Open for any discussion, if there is any. Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be abstaining, as is my custom, with recommendations from this committee. I have reservations about persons unelected sitting on council committees, and so I'm not convinced that this committee operates within the four corners of the Local Government Act. So for that reason, I'll be abstaining.
Okay, Councillor Lee, we'll just point of order you on misrepresentation there. The members of Te Tato o Te Arawa are elected.
Point of clarification, Madam Chair. What I meant by not elected, I meant not elected under the Local Electoral Act 2001, so therefore they're not able to be voted off by the public at local body elections. So therefore
Lee,
it's not democratically accountable.
It is a democratic process, Councillor Lee. You have personal view, and that is a very disappointing one in my perspective. So we have a mover and a seconder for that. I will now put this to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Marika, yes.
Any against?
Aye, Marika, yes.
That is carried, thank you. And do just note all those on Zoom supported that to be moved.
Could my abstention be recorded, please?
If you ask for it, yeah.
Thank you.
So we will now take our morning tea break. I'll invite people to return at 11:30, where we will go over our recovered water management solution project plan, and then also adopt the annual plan before going into confidential. Thank you. See you at 11:30.
Good night.
Koutou katoa. We've just had confirmation we are back online. So I welcome you all back. Thank you very much for that short break. So we're starting off with the Recovered Water Management Solution Project Plan. Councillors, this is on page 3 in the late items agenda. We'll invite Stavros, Ian Gray and also Paul to overview the report. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this? That's moved by Councillor Bryan, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. And councillors, I will also note that for your information in Stella, there was an attachment provided with details on financials. That is a confidential document just due to the commercial sensitivity of those financials. So while we're open for all questions, if you do have any questions regarding the confidential financials, then please just hold that into the confidential section. Otherwise, the full remainder of the plan and discussion and decision will be in open. So we'll now hand over to Stavros.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's right, we'll just get the PowerPoint restarted, and also those on Zoom, we have fixed the sound issue, so hopefully you can hear us better and we will certainly hear you better. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, elected members. In the context of the Three Waters Delivery Plan we were discussing earlier, obviously the management of wastewater, which is it is our biggest asset in terms of the Three Waters, worth $650 million in total replacement value. And within the wastewater system, the most critical part is our treatment plant and how all our wastewater arrives. So the treatment plant is treated and discharged, and obviously this conversation about the management of the recovered water is a significant challenge that requires a resolution ahead for us. A quick recap, our treatment plan is reaching practical completion sometime in 2026. On average, we receive about 20,000 cubic meters of recovered of wastewater, and after fully treated, that recovered water needs to go somewhere. And therefore, a long-term, sustainable disposal solution is required. Elected members last year, around November, I believe last year, had requested that and instructed the Chief Executive to consider and commence the establishment of a comprehensive working group to explore possible solutions to that challenge ahead of us. And approved a multi-criteria assessment framework. It is a suitable means of assessing such solutions, because at the moment we need to explore a whole range of solutions, and therefore elected members through a number of workshops have considered and discussed a framework for multi-criteria assessments in order to enable that working group to consider and arrive at some recommendations. The work of the working group, the engagement, with the working group and the various stakeholders, in the consideration, the communications, with various parties in the community, going through phases, aims to gradually decrease the risk associated with that, with that solution. The more we engage people, the more involve people in that, solution or search, and the more people feel that they have a meaningful and practical contribution to that exploration. Obviously, the implementation risk is reduced, and a time frame ahead of us between 2025, current year, and the early 2027, we hope to reduce that risk by actually having that, that conversation with the working group. Again, we presented that earlier. It is a busy PowerPoint, but basically what this slide says, that the working group will work to identify a long list of possible solutions, and those solutions will be filtered through these multi-criteria assessments in order to arrive at a short list of possible options that need to be taken to the next to the next phase. And on phase 2, there will be an ongoing assessment of those shortlisted approaches with a ranking process to identify what is the most viable versus, or has the highest weighted attributes in order to arrive at a preferred option of solution, and that preferred option solution will be reported back to the Council for due consideration and final decision making. Again, as I said, my apologies. This is a busy, template. It's a busy, a slide for you to consider, but basically outlines how we're moving from phase 1 to phase 2 and finally phase 3 for implementation of the preferred solution. The multi-criteria assessment is divided in 2 stages. Stage 1 is to guide, is here to guide a very complex decision, and stage 1 relates to 3 criteria we've called, or assessment to be as pass or fail. Out of all solutions recommended, every solution needs to comply with the technical feasibility. Is it doable at a technical level? Is it legally and regulatory, compliant? And also, it fits within the Council's, a long-term plan, debt headroom. I would like to emphasize that when we say fits with the Council's long-term plan debt headroom, it means that an allocation of a budget has been made for this program of work within our long-term plan. That allocation of budget has been made cognizant of the Council's ability, overall headroom. So it's not the overall Council's debt headroom, but within the allocation made to that program of work. If we want to explore that a bit further, we can explore this further, but the intention here is just to fit within the allocation the long-term plan has made for this program of work. And of course, that program of work fits with the wider Council's headroom in debt. So these are the criteria that needs to be satisfied and to move from the phase 1 to stage 2. On stage 2, elected members will have considered a range of values that involves assigning a value to the relationship with Mana Whenua. Obviously, we need to secure community acceptance and support for whatever solution we'll arrive at. And obviously, the environmental outcomes of possible solutions would involve the health of the water, the health of our receiving environment, and how it will affect intergenerational outcomes. Again, we cannot emphasize enough, the solution of this challenge is not a short-term solution. It has to be by necessity a long-term solution and will affect intergenerational considerations. And obviously, the solution has to be assessed the total life cycle cost, which is the initial capital investment, the operational cost, the depreciation, the renewals, and therefore that it needs to take a longer term approach in terms of the net present value for the solution. And obviously, finally, is we have to consider implementation risks. Some solutions might appear to be viable, some solutions might appear to be practical, until we actually consider the issues whether we can actually implement them, and therefore due consideration or implementation risks needs to be taken into consideration. Now, the weightings, we have assigned 2 options for weightings. We have assigned to each one of those 5 values a percentage. I just want to emphasize that when we're looking into value 1, 2, and 3, the relationship with Mana Whenua, community acceptance and support, environmental outcomes, and including intergenerational outcomes, the combined weighting for that is about 30%. We believe that is an appropriate total weighting for these matters, which gives you an aggregate of 30% of weighting, because the whole of the community, however you mean it, however you see it, needs to see that as worthwhile. And obviously, number 4 relates to the total life cycle costs of the scheme. of the proposal, and 5 is implementation risks. And when you aggregate all that comes to 100%. Again, we have given you proposing 2 different options, and we will value your contribution to that. We would like you to give us some direction as to which option you would like. We believe that both options got their merits, but obviously it'd be good for elected members to give us some guidance onto that. We will discuss it at the end of the presentation, and we'll come back to this, weighted, to the proposed weightings. The membership of the working group, again, if we are going to secure the 3 important values of relationship with Manafreno, community acceptance and support, environmental outcomes, including intergenerational outcomes, the working group has to broadly represent, those elements, of the weighted, values we anticipate. And it's proposed that, within the working group we'll have up to 3 elected members, representatives of Te Tatau o Te Aroa, 3 Manawhenua representatives, 2 community representatives, a youth representative, obviously the project sponsor, which is myself, and the chief executive, will be the chair of the scheme of the working group. And the reason for that, as I said earlier, the possible solutions to this challenge is a significant problem we need to resolve, and therefore the chief executive wants to, needs to chair that group, at least to provide guidance and direction as to what approaches, are possible to be taken.
Sorry, before we move on, Stavros, through you, Your Worship, just want to clarify, if you go back to the previous slide, certainly my understanding is that my role as chair would be on an interim basis until the election period was completed, the new council embedded in, and then the opportunity for council to consider the right arrangements going forward. And that lines up well with the first very busy slide that you saw at those couple of checkpoints where the working group comes back to council for a decision before proceeding on, both at the end of phase 1 with the long list and at the end of phase 2 with the ranked list.
And again, our apologies if the colours here are not really pleasant to look at, but I think it provides a decision making tree where it says that once the stage 1 criteria, the pass or fail criteria have been approved, then obviously the next stage is to go to stage 2, which we approve the values. And if there are any additional stage 1 criteria to be considered, such as, for example, the impact on, or I suppose the constraints within the long-term plan allocated in a funding program for this work, and then we move gradually to ensure that if you have any additional stage 2 values to be considered by the working group, approved, then those values will be approved with relative weightings, and obviously the stage 2 weighting options decision. You want option 1 or option 2 as the previous presentation provided, and once you approve the stage 2 weightings criteria, then that will form the baseline and the framework for the working groups considerations in progressing through the various assessment of various of the solutions that are possible to this to this project. So I was quick, but then I think we'll stop here because the next question is the computational segment of the report. So I would suggest that perhaps we should go and revisit this one, which says stage 1 criteria number 3. Would you like to be more specific about all these criteria to start with?
Thank you. We do have a question from Councillor Kaifong.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question around 3 with fitting it within the Council's LTP debt headroom. I think you mentioned 2 other things there with the budget, which is in the LTP, and also the LTP debt headroom are 2 different things. is there an opportunity to refine that to be within the council's currently allocated LTP budget rather than the debt headroom?
Yeah, I would suggest that, as explained earlier, perhaps the wording can be optimized along the lines that fits within the council's long-term plan allocated budget for the program.
I think, yeah, so that I think using that kind of wording would give more assurance as to the exact amount that was available for the project rather than fitting within an LTP debt headroom. And so, Your Worship, if there was an amendment to the motion which could encompass that change, I'd be happy to support that. And so just, yeah, thank you. I'll just leave it there. And if are we doing them slide by slide?
Yeah, I think it'd be good if we close off this slide first. If our elected members are comfortable with this pass or fail criteria, then we'll move to the next one.
Thank you. So we'll just get questions or feedback on this. I had sent an email to councillors also just indicating that I think it would be better to remove the debt headroom, which may unintentionally indicate that we will be willing to reach the debt headroom, to be more specific. So I would also support the LTP allocated budget or less. Yep. I'd be great if we could do less. Any further questions or comments on stage one? Councillor O'Brien and then Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Worship, and through the Chair, thank you, Stavros. Stavros, could we just go back a couple of slides, please? There was one, just a couple of slides ago with the arrows around.
Oh, sorry.
Apologies. That one, thank you. Could I just clarify, because we have approved stage 2 there, weightings option 10, 10, 15, 30, 35, but in our reports we have 10, 10, 10, 35 and 35. Now both this time they equal 100, which I'm glad, but which is the correct one?
I'll answer that. This illustrates the risk of doing slides late at night. Councillors, please rely on your report. This decision tree is just used to indicate the pathway of the decisions. The actual matter is correct in your report.
So 10, 10, 10, 35 and 35.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Or you may propose an alternative, which is the custom option here.
Yeah. Happy wish. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, my question relates to, I think it's the first page, that had, could you clarify visually in my head, 20,000 cubic metres of water per day, would that fill the centre of the racecourse? Or would that fill the 9-hole golf course down at the lakefront? Well, what's that scale? It's a lot of water.
It's that's about 1/5 of a cubic meter per second. Okay? I don't want to do area and volume calculations on my head, for the race course, but I invite you to imagine a pipe 1/2 meter diameter, like that, okay, flowing continuously. And that's roughly the volume of water. If you take the Utuhina dry weather volume, for example, no rain, just dry weather flows, the flow of that would be somewhere in the region of 1/20th of what the dry weather flow of the Utuhina is, on a dry day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that explanation. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not sure where this comes in the discussion process, but with the stage 2 values, because we're talking about stage 1, but I see in the complex page slide that we filter through the MCEA test as part of phase 1. So do we talk about the weightings that Councillor O'Brien just raised at this stage, or do you want to wait until a bit later?
Well, if we can finish stage 1 phase, it'll be easier for all of us out there. Oh, sorry.
So the stage 1 of those three, yeah, thank you, those 3 passed or failed. So it needs to be technically feasible, meet legal and regulatory compliance, and also fit within councils with a slight change, fit within council's LTP allocated budget or less. And then as long as it passes those, then it moves on to stage 2 with the weighted. So what I might do is just check, is there any further feedback or questions on stage 1? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could we go back to page 2, or sorry, page 3 of the presentation? Right, so Pythagoras would be very pleased with that nice triangle there, which is showing a degree of risk reducing over time. What does the risk represent? What are the potential risks that we are trying to mitigate here?
Okay. As Archimedes would have told Pythagoras, do not disturb my circles, it means that the longer you involve the community or interested parties and stakeholders into the process, you gradually eliminate the risk of litigation, the risk of objections, the risk of unknowns, and the risk of protracted debates about the implementation. Her Worship the Mayor asked a pertinent question earlier with regards to the proposed RMA or national standards issues, and one of the current processes we've got, of course, is just time it takes to reach not a consensus, but a balanced majority towards pursuing a particular solution. And of course, time and time again, it indicates that the more you explore these issues with stakeholders, the less the risk is coming at the end of the day when regulatory decisions have to be made. Now, this might not be zero risk, obviously, but it just indicates that the more upfront work we do with engagement and consultation and involvement and meaningful participation, the risk of objections and the risk of litigation against a particular suggestion is reduced, with time as you do it, in a systematic way.
And there is quite a comprehensive list of risks on page 14. And the project itself has a risk register and risk management process as well.
Yes, thank you. So the main risk that you referred to, Stavros, was litigation. Are you aware that central government are currently removing the need? I guess this is litigation. Who would be the litigation from potentially?
Well, any member of the community, any party in the community has a right to appeal a resource consent decision. So, we are talking about bringing together stakeholders from the wider community to enable us to identify any potential issues that may give rise to litigation. But it's not just the litigation component. By having a working group working through the possible solutions, the possible options, to achieve a solution, you go through a whole variety of considerations, including technical, legislative, compliance, parameters, environmental parameters, financial parameters, and so on. And the more you explore all these causal factors for potential risk, your risk is reduced as you go along. So it's not just simply litigation against the solution, it's actually gradually bringing together all those factors that comprise a multi-criteria assessment, the MCA assessment. You refine them and you get more certainty about all these components, of the multi-criteria assessment.
So are you concerned about potential litigation with from mana whenua if we don't go through this process?
Well, it is possible.
Councillor Lee, if I might jump in through you, Worship. It's quite standard practice to expect the degree of risk on any large capital project to reduce over time. That's our objective here. It's a series of actions we've proposed through this paper to do that. We don't really have a suite of risks that we want to specifically eliminate. It's too early for that. What we've indicated is a part that over time we want to be coming back to Council saying that we have mitigated those risks over time. That's what the slides indicate.
Does the proposed legislative changes by government help to mitigate this risk of litigation?
They mitigate some risks and they don't mitigate other risks.
Okay, thank you.
We'll take final questions on stage 1, Councillor Barker, then Councillor Patterson, and then we'll move into stage 2, which is the waiting.
Sorry, she was probably been answered already. Just it was around this reduction of risk, and I assume that the communication with our wider community who aren't on the working group will take place throughout this process, so that they will see the process unfolding in front of them, and they will have access to bits of information that help to inform them as well about the process. That too will mitigate the risk.
If you go to the next slide, probably identifies that.
I think I'm stuck on the slide. Come on, please. Yeah, I think in broad terms, Councillor Barker, the idea of a multi-pronged approach to that. You have a working party that explores a whole range, of possible solutions. It evaluates the solutions of a multi-criteria assessment. So that is the work of the working group. But, for that to be successful, an ongoing and meaningful engagement and communication with the wider community need to take place. Because if you have a working group working in isolation without communication to the wider community, at the end of the day, you don't have such a credible outcome by not explaining how you arrive at that outcome. So the challenge for us is going to have that ongoing engagement and communications with the wider community.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, maybe the same question, I'm not sure. Just looking at phase 1, goal, gather and filter options, and then stage 1. So in phase 1, it talks about involving public awareness, etc. But then when we get to the analysis of stage 1, there doesn't seem to be a number 4 that says, what do the public feel about this? Because it might be a challenge to move to stage 2 without having eliminated some things that the public are just dead against.
My view, and Andrew may want to elaborate onto that, the idea of establishing a multi-criteria assessment and selecting and establishing a working group that broadly represents wide views in the community is actually to concentrate on solutions that meet certain criteria. Otherwise, you'll end up in a perpetual cycle of people suggesting solutions that, when they put under the microscope of the technical feasibility assessment or legislative assessment or financial assessment, might not meet these criteria. So the community, our expectation is that we will inform the community as to how we arrived at, from stage 1 to stage 2. And what solutions have been considered and what solutions have been rejected or accepted. But the notion of involving every individual member of the community to participate into a solutions exploration within impractical in some respect. But Andrew may want to explore that.
Through you, Your Worship. So the first question was around the terminology, phase 1 versus stage 1. So the stages refer to the multi-criteria analysis framework. And again, we've tried to stay with industry standard language, which talks about pass-fail at stage 1. Coincidentally, the phasing of this work lines up with those stages. So phase 1 of the project will be applying stage 1 of the multi-criteria analysis. Pure pass-fail. At the end, Council gets to see that long list and approve that those proceed on to phase 2, which uses the stage 2 multi-criteria analysis. I think it's important for the public to understand that we have an obligation to run a process that applies rationality and applies expertise to the analysis of options. That's why we've got a multi-criteria analysis, and that's why we're bringing it to Council to approve a framework. So absolutely, ideas will come through into that working group, and all ideas will be looked at by that working group. It's important, in our view, to have a milestone at which that's been through some rigor, and so the options that are being publicly discussed have had some assessment of feasibility. Otherwise, we don't want the public being confused about an extremely long and potentially a list of ideas that has some possibly grossly unfeasible ideas in there. So hence the distinction between how we would socialize that list before and after that first analysis has been done.
Thank you. I understand now. Thank you. The only concern I had with not bringing them along for the ride completely is that we could spend a lot of time and money coming up with some solutions which they flat out reject straight away because they didn't get the option right from the word go. It could save us time if they were brought along from the start. That's all I'm getting at, is that they might just go, no, and we've spent a hell of a lot of money investing in research, design, all the things that we have to do to get through those technical feasibility, legal compliance, fits within our dead headroom, and then they just go, no. So that's all I was concerned about.
And look, councillors, I'll take the consensus of this body as direction on how to proceed. Certainly there are a number of different views about that.
Thank you. So that is all the questions for stage 1.
Okay.
So now we will move to stage 2 and the waiting.
So the first question is whether those values in stage 2 remain or continue to enjoy your support, those values, and then we go to the options of waiting after that. So is it correct that 1 to 5 are values that need to be considered in the stage 2 of the MCA?
We'll just take any feedback on this if there's any additional changes. I am okay with this. Councillor Kaifong.
Thank you, Chair. In the other one, we also had talked about the legal and regulatory compliance, which I know is not part of that 4 and 5, but if you were to take I suppose that is part of it as well, and that is why I would be more accepting of the option 1 values, which gives a higher weighting towards the stuff that's driven by data or statistics or facts, and is also a requirement and is also prudent in terms of financial management. So I think that gives more certainty around the stuff that we actually do know or can find out, whereas in some cases the other options may be more subjective. So therefore, even when you wrap the other 1, 2 and 3 together, it still gives a weighting combined of 30%, but I think that if the 4 and 5 also includes the fact that we've got that regulatory compliance and so it's covered in part of that, and that is why it ensures a higher weighting for those things, then I'd be happy to support it.
So just to clarify, Councillor Kaifong, the 5 values are acceptable. The weighting is what you're saying. The weighting or option 1 seems to be more preferable because 4 and 5 are more tangible, or quantifiable components. Yes. Okay.
And I certainly agree with that as well. But we've got Councillor Kiriopa online, and then we'll go to Councillor Patterson.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd just like to push back on Councillor Kaifong's views that option 1 offers is more focused, I guess, on how she said it, on data, facts and regulatory compliance. I mean, whose data, whose facts? If you look at the state of our waterways, the experts, the compliance that we're looking at now shows that none of it works. Our waterways are a mess. So I wouldn't put any more weighting on option 1 than I would on relationships with mana whenua or environmental outcomes, because we need to change something in order to fix the state of our waterways. I'm opposed to option 1. Option 2 puts mana whenua and environmental outcomes on equal par with economic considerations. Option 1 lumps, as usual, as councils do, lumps mana whenua who are a treaty partner, but lumps them in as stakeholders with other stakeholders as less, and we're treaty partners at the end of the day. Option 2 doesn't go far enough, but it goes further than option 1, which just minimises, in my view, the relationship with mana whenua to that of another stakeholder. And we're not, mana whenua are treaty partners and should be treated as such. Thank you.
Thank you. And as the main aim of this process right now is feedback, we are open for feedback, not just questions. So we'll go to Councillor Patterson, and just signalling, as I had suggested in my email yesterday, and as has been mentioned by Councillor Kai Fong, option 1 will be the first that we will put up for consideration of support, and then if that is lost, then it's an opportunity for another councillor to suggest option 2. Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, and I would like to tautoko Councillor Kiriopo's comments there. Option 2 for me, when you look at 1, 2 and 3, I'm not necessarily comfortable that there is 1, 2 and 3. I think there should be 1. Those 3 all interrelate. We are all part of our community. We need our environment to sustain us, and they each have equal value. And if we don't get 1, 2 and 3 right, we will end up in the same situation that has happened previously. And Stavros quite articulated that well. That is something that we do want to avoid. Of all of the decisions that we're about to make, this one has got, as again Stavros rightly pointed out, very long, far-reaching consequences. So for me, option 2 is the one we need to put, in my opinion, the views of our community first, all stakeholders first, the environment first, before money and regulatory compliance, because we'll only end up doing the same thing again. And I would, if all we can do here today is set a pathway forward, then I would like to see option 2 as the option, because I just don't want to see history repeating.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, and then followed by Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Worship. I hear what Councillor Kiriopa and Councillor Patterson are saying. I struggle with if we wait, or we go to option 2 and the weighting isn't at least equal with the life cycle cost. I think one of the things that we will need to do is demonstrate affordability to get community acceptance. I'll put this out as feedback or a suggestion for conversation. If option 1, Councillor Patterson alluded to this, 1, 2 and 3 are the same, could we not, well, we're differentiating each one there with a different weighting. If they were, all 3 were together with equal weighting of 30, or even a third each, for argument's sake. I don't want to overly complicate this thing, but if we don't get it right with mana whenua, we don't get it right with the community. If we don't get it right with our environmental, we won't get agreement. And so I would suggest maybe we put all of those 3 together and they ultimately have equal weighting with 4 and 5 in option 1.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, followed by Lee. Oh, sorry, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm a little surprised that Councillor Patterson supports stage 2, given that that would put total lifestyle cost on par with all of the other values. I know Councillor Patterson has worked hard to try and reduce rates as much as he possibly can, and for that reason, the total lifestyle cost is something that I would rate much higher than any of the other options that we see there. I think the implementation risk can be managed comfortably, and I think we're at a stage where the community are a wee bit fed up with incredible rates rises that go far beyond inflation, and that's what we've seen from the taxpayer union's protest. I think this, I don't support this whole process at all. I think it's overly complicated. I'm just providing a little bit of feedback as we go, but I think this whole process is unnecessarily complex, because the obvious and simple solution is to put the water into the Paringa stream. And the whole idea of pumping water uphill, which would cost the ratepayers $1 million a year in electricity alone, $2 million a year, Councillor Brown tells me, it's nuts. I don't see these other options. I don't see this committee as being able to come up with viable options. I think that's entirely unlikely. So obviously put it straight in the Paringa stream is going to be the cheapest solution for ratepayers, and that's what's going to keep rates low.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Generally speaking, I'm in favour of option 1. I've heard very much the passionate arguments from Councillor Patterson and Councillor Kiriopa, who have made these arguments before, and very succinctly and very forcefully. For me, though, I think what we have to decide as a council is, when we say we want agreement, what sort of agreement do we want? Is it going to be unanimous? Is it going to be where no one complains about anything? Where every single person in this town congratulates us and claps us into meetings? I think we're going to be very hard pushed to find a solution, any solution, that satisfies everybody 100%, including the people that sit around this table, whether it's this current lot or the any changes after October. If you look at Rotorua, and I'm not going into that because the report's still confidential as far as I'm aware, we've heard a lot of feedback about how plans were changed and systems were changed, and it led to a far more expensive scheme than was originally planned. Now, we'll save that for another day, but I think the community's made it very clear to us that cost has to be the deciding factor, certainly from my interpretation. Now, I don't believe that we have to force where, despite what the weighting is, that we have to decide against financial prudence versus community feedback. I think there can be solutions worked through, despite the whatever way the weightings go. Engagement and consultation with mana whenua will be important, no matter what the option that we go forward with. We don't want to end up in the courts. We don't want to end up in spending money on legal cases forever and a day, particularly since the Local Government Act tells us that we should be engaging and consulting with treaty partners. So I think that these things can be worked through very easily. The weighting today, as I say, I'm supportive of option 1, but I do believe that there will still be, with framework where our officers may work, and, things will not be exactly 10% in terms of time frame and in terms of finance. We're talking about a guideline. I don't know how precise 10% will be, whichever measurement you were using, but it's like moving forward and at least getting a process underway that the community can look at, can be engaged with. They may come back to us and say, no, we're not happy about this. That's their prerogative. But I think that this is the best way forward, and for me, option 1 is certainly the one I'm getting the feeling from the ratepayers, but also the government. Cost has to be a factor, and a very important and determining factor. So for me, option 1 is to clear out the 2 options, but I'm happy to hear from my other colleagues about how that actual weighting could be slightly adjusted. But for me, option 1 is the clear winner. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Lee, did you have a further comment?
Yeah, a little point of order. Councillor misrepresentation. Councillor O'Brien just referred to the Local Government Act, which says we have to consult with iwi. That is, of course, correct. And we have to consult with the whole community. What's being proposed here is a kind of pre-consultation, which actually isn't provided for, because they're being, we're not consulting on a proposal, we're engaging before we get to a proposal. So I don't think that fits into Section 82 of the Local Government Act, as Councillor
Sorry,
O'Brien
Councillor Lee, that's not a point of order. That is merely your personal opinion on that. I do agree with Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Barker, and please let me know if you wish to say anything, and we will move on shortly.
Thank you, Your Worship, and acknowledge the comments of my colleagues in favour of option 2. I do lean towards option 1, and I see that the first 3, when put together as the views of our community and in favour of our environment, sit against the other 2 on that in equal proportion. I would also just draw the attention of my colleagues to the terms of reference for the working group, which are coming later. Within those, there is the opportunity for this working group to enlist further input from our partners and stakeholders as well in the terms of reference. And also, there is the possibility for the working group to request special subject matter experts who will have expertise in Mātauranga Māori and other matters that would really inform the decision making of this working group. So there will be the ability for this working group, under the weightings that we decide, to actually bring in expertise and to make sure that it's strongly weighted. I just think that it's more even and reflects the fact that lifestyle cost has a massive impact on our future generations, not just now but into the future, and so that affects every community member, and so it needs to be weighted accordingly, in my opinion. So that's why I'll support option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've listened to my colleagues, and I just have a quick question. Can I just get this clarified? Councillor Patterson, you said you wholeheartedly support Councillor Kiriopa, but I think she was supporting option 1, but you went to 2, didn't you? She was supporting 2. And to me, I know that for Councillor Kiriopa, this has been the environment, the taio has been a passion of hers in this term that she's had with us, and I've been persuaded, I think, by the passionate way in which Councillor Kiriopa pushed for her stage 2. I'll be supporting stage 2. Sorry, option 2, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Sorry, I just have a question, if I may. Membership of the working group says up to 3 councillors. When is this going to start?
Through your worship, my proposal is this commences as soon as possible. I'm comfortable, having looked at the pre-election provisions, that this is being as an advisory group. I'm comfortable that the occurrence of local government elections doesn't preclude elected members from participating on that working group, and following the elections we will reevaluate whether those elected members continue or not. But again, this is another reason why I've been voluntold as the interim chair to get us through that period.
So my second question is, who chooses them?
It'll be myself as the mayor, as the usual appointee. Sorry, yeah, appoint members of. Appoint all, thanks.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, there appears to be no further feedback on stage 2. I'll just quickly provide my own comments as well. I do certainly take on board the concerns of those who would prefer option 2 with more weighting for mana whenua and our community and environmental outcomes, but I do want to again emphasise that this is about balancing not only what people's wants are, but also the needs of our wider community. And when we look at how other councils have undertaken their wastewater discharge, and we see the significant costs of that, sometimes into the billions, over $1 billion, which is the case for both Auckland and potentially Hutt Valley as well. That is a burden that we simply cannot put on our community, of this being astronomical costs. And so that is why I do support the total life cycle cost being at least 1/3 of the importance of this decision. And also, of course, the implementation risk, which also will ensure that there are not any cost blowouts or adverse impacts on this as well, and does actually consider the availability of technology, land and expertise associated with both the installation and ongoing operations. So from a purely practical perspective, we will be doing, as has been outlined in this process, we will be doing significant amount of not only community consultation, but also providing our community with information as this proceeds, which will still take some time. So I'm very pleased that, and thank you to our Chief Executive, who will continue this work through the election period so that we can find the most appropriate solution for our wider Rotorua community as soon as possible, because we do have we do have upcoming time limits on this, and we need to make sure that we are able to deliver this before the end of next year. So what I'm going to do is we'll take Councillor Kai Fong as the mover, and I will be the seconder, and we'll take them all as one. And
just sorry, Chair, just point of clarification. Just wondering if we've... can we bring the motion up?
So that is what should be with the amendment on 2C, fits within Council's LTP allocated budget or less. There you go. Actually, as there has been a number of councillors that have signalled they would prefer option 2, are you all okay if we take 2 and 3 as one, and then we go into 4 and then we go into 4 separately, which allows councillors to just vote to potentially support the values and the criteria, but also get an opportunity to support or not option 1 of the weighting. That might be a bit away. Okay, so just for clarity, I'll read that out. So we will move the criteria and the values first, if Councillor Kai Fong is happy to second that.
Thanks.
Yep, and so that will be with that slight amendment, LTP allocated budget or less, so that Council approves stage 1 criteria, namely A, technical feasibility, B, legal and regulatory compliance, C, fits within Council's LTP allocated budget or less, and 3, that Council approves stage 2 values, namely relationship with mana whenua, community acceptance and support, environmental outcomes, including intergenerational outcomes, total life cycle cost and implementation risk. Just check if there are any final comments on this. Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be voting against this. I think what we've got here in front of us is a recipe for disaster. I don't have any confidence that we're not going to have cost blowouts. I noticed today we approved the minutes of a meeting on the 2nd of July, which included impairment of $4.9 million of work in progress relating to the contact bed discharge solution. So this was the previous attempt that Council spent $5 million on, and actually I asked the Chief Executive on the 2nd of July for an explanation of what's in this $5 million that we spent and have nothing for, that we're now writing off. I haven't received any information on that at all. But I think we're bending over backwards and doing somersaults for no particular reason. There's a simple solution to this problem, and all of this is unnecessary. The idea of a youth representative on this committee, ultimately what we're setting up here, I think what you're doing, Your Worship, you'll be establishing this committee, is establishing another secret committee of council with a whole bunch of unelected ring-ins on it.
Now, point of order, misrepresentation. This is not secret. It's been very clear that this will be well publicised and information provided to the community. But you can continue.
Will the public be able to attend these meetings, and will the meetings be advertised as per the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, or will the meetings be conducted in secret, Your Worship?
This is a working group. You had your opportunity to ask questions. Please continue with your statement and we can carry on.
I'll take that as a no. So no, I don't have any confidence in the membership of the working group that's put here. I don't have any confidence in the whole process, and I have no confidence that we're not going to be heading down the road of cost blowouts here. So I'll be voting against.
Thank you. We are in discussion. Councillor Brown, followed by Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do support what's in front of me. I think if we did it Councillor Lee's way and put it straight in the Puringa, you're guaranteed to be in the Environment Court pretty quick. So let's not do it that way. Let's do it this way and get on with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, the thought of dumping the water straight in the Puarenga stream, I think the people of Ngāpuna will be lighting torches and coming with pitchforks. I just can't see that flying at all. One thing that I note is we kind of are making a bit of work for ourselves when we say here to C to fit within allocated budget. We've already made that clear. So why do we have to add added weight to it further on? If we're already saying we're going to stick to that, that's what we're sticking to. So why does it have to have added weight down in the box below? If we stick to that, we're sticking to what we say. We're going to stick to our budget. So therefore, it doesn't necessarily have to be given extra weight further down. I don't see the logic. But anyway, the one last point I want to make is phase 2 on one of the pages of the presentation. It's got goal rank options phase 2. And then it goes down to risks. And there's this wonderful little statement that gives me shivers when I think of another statement that's been made previously. It says, under risks, if public feel they need to know, then. If public feel they need to know. Now that sounds a hell of a lot like it's pace versus local conversation. Can't have both. We've got to carry them on this journey. They have to come with us side by side or there will be trouble. Mark my words.
Thank you. And once again, reassure the community that there will be an extraordinary amount, certainly above and beyond what has usually occurred in the past, of community consultation and informing. And also just noting that the stage 1 criteria of the fits within council's LTP allocated budget or less is only the stage 1 of a pass or fail, and then the stage 2 of the values and the weighting is how much we decide to allocate to that before making a final decision on what one comes out with the best option. So we've got Councillor O'Brien and then Councillor Kiriopa.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we have to recognise this is a very difficult, and I'm talking about the entire process upon completion, not just today. I totally disagree, and I mean totally disagree with everything Councillor Lee just said today. What I've always asked when we've had some, shall we say, difficult conversations in this area of Three Waters over these past nearly 3 years, I've always said, well, it is what it is, but what have we learnt? What have we learnt today? And I think through this process, what we're trying to do and trying to demonstrate to iwi, to mana whenua, to everybody, as well as the general public, and also to show the public that we want to take a step-by-step process. It's not just, hey, this is what we're doing, like it or lump it. That we're trying to take people along through this process, and that's why we're breaking it down. I think this is one of the most constructive things I've done while I've been here for the 3 years. I congratulate the team on what they're trying to achieve. I'm not a mind reader. If I was, my TOB account would be much bigger. But I think that we're taking every step possible to try and achieve a wider consensus as possible. As I say, I don't think we're going to find, unfortunately, no matter what the outcome is, a unanimous approval, but unfortunately, hopefully, we can take the majority of people with us, and even those that are opposed can still see that we've acted as constructively and openly, as transparently as possible. That's what this whole process was about, and this is what we've been asking for as councillors for the whole time I've been here. And in fact, I've been asking for even before I got here. So I congratulate the team on the process that we've initiated. As I say, maybe the weightings will be slightly adjusted and maybe in workings out, maybe it quite won't be X factor, but I'm comfortable with that. Things change, things become more obvious, and a good council will be flexible and work that through. So for me, I think this has been a very worthwhile process. I congratulate the staff and team and the CE and yourself for leading this, and I'm all in favour of it, so I'll be voting for. But as I say, I do hear the concerns of Councillor Patterson and Councillor Kiriopa, and we all share those concerns. And also, we'll also be working with legal frameworks within government, which will be very tough on us, I have no doubt. For me, I think it's a very good process, and I'm all in favour. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go online now to Councillor Kiriopa.
Thank you. I won't be supporting the motion. I won't be supporting the motion. My main concern is that the approved budget limits limit the approved budget, the allocated budget, and the LTP. The concern has always been that it would limit any other solutions in the water being put back into the lake, or put into the lake. Changing this motion to fit within council's allocated budget. It was written in the original way due to the concerns, but now this last minute recommendation is sending us down the typical tried and true track to limit the end decision to a financial one. And that's why the state of our environment is the way it is, because for whatever reason, people will constantly always go back to the economy as the most important thing. And I mean, that's the problem, so I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just check if the seconder wishes to say anything before I close.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of words. I commend Councillor O'Brien for his comments, and I agree with what he has said today. In terms of the budget, we're not trying to limit options. What we're trying to do is just to provide some certainty as to the parameters in which the group can provide some solutions. I think that by changing it or allowing it to be within Council's debt headroom means that whilst not quite an open chequebook, it very much opens the chequebook much wider and also puts much more financial risk on the council in the event that we do need to fund other projects, or if we have a significant natural disaster. We also don't know what our books will look like once the government's dealt with the local waters done well situation. So I think this gives us financial prudence, and the purpose of setting up a working group, Councillor Lee, is that we're actually asking the community and mana whenua to be engaged right from the very start of this, and they are the ones that were making the recommendations. They will be looking at all of the options, and it will also be, as part of that, their job or part of their role will be to get input from the wider community and to ensure that there is engagement and that communication about all the work that's been done. So I think that if they are the ones that are soliciting the ideas from the community, it's not us. We're not suggesting outwards, they're providing the ideas to us. We then assess them and weigh them against criteria, which we've been pretty clear about, which then meets all of the requirements that we have. Then Council should, at the end of this, have a robust decision that it can rely on to ensure that this project does succeed, and I hope it does. 10 years is a long time for us to be coming to this point, but as Councillor O'Brien has said, we're also learning from the lessons of the past. We are trying to make sure that we do things right from the start and from the outset, so I'm happy to support this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kaifong. Look, there has been quite substantial comments made, so I will just add something that I haven't heard yet, and that is just reiterating the importance of the youth representative as part of this membership as well. Unfortunately, Councillor Lee doesn't agree with that, but I've got to admit that so often when we think about how hard times are now, it's because of decisions that happened well before our time. And we are now stuck with not only paying off that debt, but also the ongoing operational costs. I see no better way than ensuring we are making the best intergenerational decisions than by ensuring that we have that young voice at the table, because we will be committing, when the final decision is made, we will be committing the cost of this project over potentially 2 generations in future. So I think it's really important that they also get to have a say. And I've got to admit, whenever I've visited our many schools in the district, I've always been blown away by not only the intelligence but also the competence of the young people in our community. It certainly makes you hopeful for the future. So we look forward to progressing with this, and I will just mention once again that I do support option 1 because of the requirement for us to make sure that this is delivered in a way that is not only appropriate but also in the most affordable way possible. This is just one of the many costs that will come our way to our community, delivering purely the core services of council. So what I'll do again is we'll take point 2 and 3, which is the criteria and then the values, and then we will also take point 4, which is option 1, and that is the opportunity for councillors who don't support that to vote against. Just check everyone feels clear about the vote we're about to take. Yep. Okay, so I ask you to please raise your hand that council approves stage 1 criteria, and also point 3 that council approves stage 2 values. Please raise your hand, all those in support. Thank you. Any against?
Can I have that recorded, please?
Yep, thank you. We've got Councillor Kiriopa and Lee against. Everybody else for, as far as I could see. Yep. Thank you. That is carried. And so we will now move to point 4. That council approves option 1.
Happy to second.
Yep. So that was moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kaifong. Just for those on Zoom, this is the option with 10% weighting for relationship with mana whenua, 10% for community acceptance and support, and 10% for environmental outcomes, including intergenerational outcomes. Again, I'll ask if you could please raise your hand in support. If you are against and the majority is against, then we will ask a councillor to put forward the next option. So all those in favour for option 1, please raise your hand.
We're not had it all, seeing as you've just put the motion.
Oh, sorry, we've had the discussion on all of that already.
Okay.
Yep, sorry, I'll ask you to vote again. All those in favour of option 1, please raise your hand. That is 6-4. All those against? That is 3 against.
Have that recorded, please.
Yep. Do you...
Abstention over here, thank you. Out of the 2 options, I...
Okay, there's not an opportunity for you to share your bad views. Okay, that is carried. Thank you, elected members, and thank you very much, staff, for getting us through that process. And
Sorry,
we'll
those votes
just
are
finish with
recorded. Yep.
That council approved the terms of reference for the working group. It's
just a point of clarification.
Yep.
Because the current terms of reference just refer to the CE as being the chair, that just needs to be noted that.
Oh, it's already been noted. Thank you.
So Other than that, I'm happy to approve that. Also move that.
Yep. So that's already been noted. Moved by Councillor Kai Fong, seconded by myself. We have had discussion on this already.
Sorry, Your Worship, could I just ask, just on the terms of reference side, and I apologise, sorry, my computer's just gone off at the misappropriate time. When we say elected members of up to 3,
Sorry, can you please repeat that, Councillor?
sorry, Your Worship, just in regards to membership, elected members up to 3, te tātou or te arawa, how many, is that the full 10 or is it?
We just got a question for clarity.
Through you, Your Worship, that's one representative.
Do you think that should be listed in there?
We can make that clear. I understood in the terms of reference it was stated, but if
thank you. I appreciate. Sorry, it's just the fact that it is there. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, sorry, we'll just wait a moment while it's put up on the screen. Oh, no, sorry, we don't need the actual terms of reference on the screen, but if you do look to your agenda, and I will read it out so everybody knows, the membership, the following are considered members of the working group: elected members, in brackets up to 3, te tātou or te aroa, we note there is 1 representative, mana whenua representatives times 3, community representatives times 2, a youth representative, and project sponsor, with the interim chairperson being the chief executive. So we have had discussion, so I will now ask you to please raise your hand that Council approves the terms of reference for the working group. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any against? That is carried.
Please.
Thank you.
Number recorded, please.
Yep. Yes. Okay, so we move on now to the adoption of the annual plan 2025-2026. Apologies, we are just having to clean up what was unfortunately some missing columns, but we'll hand over to David now to just briefly overview the report. Oh, sorry, may I please have a mover and a seconder to receive the report? That's moved by Councillor Barker, seconded by Councillor Kai Fong. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Your Worship, and elected members. So the purpose of this report is to address 2 issues. So firstly, when staff were working at pace to prepare the annual plan for the 2nd of July meeting, there was a column that was erroneously missed from the rating impacts, from the funding funding impact statement in the adopted annual plan, and that meant that there were 2 rates that were never formally adopted by Council at that time. So just to make it clear that those 2 rates were not included in the rate strike or the invoices that have already gone out. These are instead related to water by metre. So the purpose of this report is to tidy this up, re-adopt the annual plan in time for us to send out those water by metre invoices for the next billing cycle. The second purpose of this report is to adopt the capital funding plan for the Lake Tarawera Sewerage Scheme. So this is a requirement of the Local Government Rating Act. That after the additional funding was announced by MFE and Regional Council, we needed time for a final legal review before that capital funding plan could be finalised. And so this report requests that Council revoke its decision to adopt the annual plan made at the meeting on the 2nd of July. To re-adopt the annual plan, we just put those small changes included in the rating funding impact statement, and also to adopt the capital funding plan, which just was a legal requirement of the Act, but also just encapsulates all the decisions that have been made to date, and it's the one source of truth for the way that sewerage scheme is to be funded going forward.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions on this? It is straightforward, unfortunately, a bit of a process when you must do. Nope. So I am happy to move. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any against? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, David. So now, councillors, what we are going to do is we're going to move into public excluded, and I will just note that there are 2 items for consideration, and that consideration has been given to public interest in this matter, and officers' advice is that the reasons for confidentiality outweigh the public interest in the matter. We've got the item 11.2, recommendations on tenancy, property management and potential redevelopment of the pensioner housing portfolio. Reasons for passing this in public excluded is the withholding of the information is necessary to protect information which is subject to an obligation of confidence or which any person has been or could be compelled to provide under the authority of any enactment where the making available of information would be likely otherwise to damage the public interest, and also section 7.2i in plain English. Can I please have a mover and a seconder? That's moved by Councillor O'Brien. I'm seconded by Councillor Brown. That Council resolves to exclude the public on the grounds contained in section 48(1) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act. Put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? That is carried. Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Could I just ask at the conclusion of the items on the agenda, could I raise an issue with the council members and also the CE only, please?
Yeah, that's okay. We'll just, at the conclusion of the meeting, maybe we'll just give some, come on in, Steph. We'll give some time and then do